Hey guys, let's talk about Peter Pan. The version I read was this one by Collectible Classics, and it's perfect. It's straight to the point. It's unabridged, and it gets right into the story, just like how these videos are set up. So Peter Pan is an adult's book and a kid's book at the exact same time. I actually only started reading this book because I seen a video of somebody getting a tattoo, a Peter Pan quote on their arm, and I was like, why? Why would an adult get a Peter Pan tattoo on his arm? And it got me thinking about, like, it must have some deeper meaning. It must be one of those books that can, like, progress with time. So I decided to buy it. I found this version and I dove straight into it. And Peter Pan is lighthearted at first. Peter Pan is a funny story if you don't think too hard about it. It's about Peter Pan, who dresses up in all green leaves, and he goes and he takes kids from their window. It sounds dark, but he takes kids to the Neverland, and Neverland is a place run by kids, and it's all happy. It's always summertime. The weather's perfect, and you start thinking to yourself, it kind of sounds like these kids are going to heaven, and they are. These kids are. It hints at it many times in the book. These kids are the ones that don't make it. These kids are the ones that get forgotten by their parents, or put away by their parents, so to speak. So you start thinking about how, he's going through all these journeys and stories about Captain Hook and the crocodile that ticks, and he has all these epic battles. And you see Tinkerbell get into some jealousy with Wendy, and Wendy takes on this motherly role. Wendy is the main. I think she's the protagonist of the story. I don't think Peter Pan is the protagonist, even though it's written after him. Peter Pan is on par with Captain Hook in terms of evilness, and we'll get into that in a bit. But so they're living in this land, this fairyland, the Neverland, and Peter Pan doesn't want them to remember about their mother. He tells them to not think about them. He gets mad when they start telling stories about the mom, and he elects Wendy to be the mom, and they have this sort of weird father-mother relationship where they're both the heads of the household when it comes to taking care of the other kids on the Neverland. And you could see how Peter Pan isn't the perfect character. Most protagonists or claimed protagonists aren't. They have flaws. They have things about them that don't make sense. But at the end of the book, they progress and become better people. But Peter Pan never goes through that change. Peter Pan never grows up, which is part of the reason we have Peter Pan syndrome. He never matures. He never thinks about the future. He never thinks about other people. All he cares about is himself, like a selfish kid. And the more you start thinking about everything that's going on, how he takes them while they're sleeping, and it's Wendy and her two brothers, and they both had a fever the night before, and all of a sudden they just disappear, and the parents can't find them, and they're always crying and waiting for them to come back home. And that's exactly what it's like when someone has a child who dies. They preserve their room. They wait for them. They think it's something that went wrong, and they try to deny it. They think something else probably happened, and it starts getting really, really dark when you think about how Peter Pan is pretty much a Valkyrie. He's an angel that takes you to the afterlife. And it's all about preserving the innocence, preserving the youth, trying to keep them in this little mind frame of you're a kid and you're always going to stay a kid. You're never going to grow up. But then we have Captain Hook. And Captain Hook is the main antagonist. No doubt about it. He goes up to them dressed in all black with a hook in his hand, and he tries to cut Peter Pan and all the kids. And Captain Hook is symbolic of death. Captain Hook is symbolic of somebody realizing their mortality, that they're not going to live forever. And Captain Hook shows that to them. He shows that to them in the physical form. He says, I'm going to literally kill you. And you think it's a kid's book. You're like, okay, this Captain Hook guy, he's just a pirate. But no, he literally has fights with Peter Pan where he tries to cut him up and, destroy him. And he's pretty much the factor, or the father of time that means maturity. He is the symbolic version of growing up. And he tries to tell Peter Pan it's inevitable. Everyone is going to grow up. Everyone is going to realize that they're mortal, that they have finite time in this world, and they're going to die one day. And Peter Pan tries to keep the kids in ignorance. He tries to say this is all fun and games. This is just an adventure. Me and Captain Hook just go at it like this because we're buddies. But that's not at all how Captain Hook sees it. That's not at all how Death sees life. Death doesn't care who you are. Death is going to take you regardless of what you've done or not. No matter how rich, poor, happy, sad, death is going to come. Just like Captain Hook. He's always there around the corner. And then it got me thinking about Peter Pan. If he's an angel of death and Captain Hook is the Grim Reaper, Peter Pan is essentially the same person, just under a different disguise. He's just wearing a mask. Peter Pan actually forgot his own history. He forgot his background. He forgot where he came from. And he wants the others to do the same. The quote that the guy got on his tattoo, it was a quote for how to get to the Neverland. And then later on, Peter Pan admits he doesn't even know directions. He's like, I just make stuff up as I go because I don't even know my history. I don't know my mom. I don't know where I came from, anything. And he wants them to forget too. He doesn't want any of the kids to remember their past life. In a way, he is the expression of the devil you know is better than the devil you don't know. He's telling these kids it's all fun and games, let's all go, and we're just going to have fun, right? We're just going to keep playing in the playground forever. Don't remember where you're from. Don't even think about your parents. Don't think about any of that. And he tries to coerce them into this afterlife without them really knowing. And in a way, he's worse than Captain Hook, because Captain Hook is obvious and he's blunt, and he tells them, literally, I'm going to kill these never after, I forget what the bandit group is called, the Lost Boys. And Peter Pan doesn't. He just tells them that we're part of a group, we're part of a little cult, we're part of a little membership program. But he's really just manipulating them for his own benefit. He's a sociopath. He doesn't like anybody going against him. He doesn't like anybody saying what he did is wrong, and he likes to be the one in charge for no apparent reason. He just elects himself president because he elected himself president. And you could see that he's more twisted than anybody else in the book. And I think that's why this book is a kid's book and an adult's book at the same time, because it runs both ways. It could be lighthearted if you don't think about it that much. You could tell the kids the stories and they'll think it's all fun and games, fighting these crocodiles and having sword fights on a boat. But at the end of the day, the adult sees beyond what the kid sees, and they know that this book is dark. This book is about children who don't make it, and this is what they live in the afterlife. But it can also teach you about who to trust in the real world. You don't have to go to the Neverland in order to realize that there's snakes in the grass around you, that some people like to manipulate. They like to control situations just by you being in them. And it's pretty interesting to see that people talk about Peter Pan like he's a protagonist, but in the end of the day, he's evil. He likes to trick kids into forgetting their past and keeping them forever, and he gets mad if they think about home, and he's like, no, I'm gonna shelter you all here. He's like, I'm your leader now, don't even think about anybody else. And I think it's a great book. I think it's a great book because of the underlying darkness of it. But at the end of the day, there's no happy ending. The book ends in a kind of sad way. I won't ruin the ending in case some of you want to read it, but it didn't. It was good the way it ended, but it was sad, and it's just like a slap in the face. And in the way, the book is kind of a Peter Pan in itself, bringing you bad news in a lighthearted way. And I think that's pretty cool that the book reflects the character that it's written on, even though he's not the main person. But the moral of the story is the hero of this book, which it's named after. Pretty interesting stuff, whoever decided the idea of Peter Pan. And I found out actually that Peter Pan comes from the Roman god Pan, who is the guy who lives in the wilderness, who plays the flute, and he's half goat from the bottom down. And made me really interested to think that it was inspired by an animalistic god, not a humane god, but someone who lives in the forest and doesn't even like humans. They like nature and animals. Anyway, that's the end of the video. I'll give this book a 4 out of 5 stars. I really liked it. It's small, but it's very nice. And it's deep at the same time. If you have time, I think you should read it and see how you can be tricked. I was tricked by Peter Pan at first too. I thought he was the coolest guy in the world. I was like, I want to be like him when I grow up. But no, you end up seeing that there's a darker meaning behind everything that he does. And I think it's pretty cool to see that play out in the book, but not directly told to you. Anyway, it's the end of the video. If you like it, consider commenting, liking, subscribing, all that good stuff. I'll see you guys next time.